Has to focus on your pretty face, though. Okay, so what are we gonna do? 1, 2, 3, go?
Sure.
1, 2, 3.
Go.
Go.
On 3 after 3.
Okay, so welcome to the Muay Thai Library. This video is for people who have just joined Sylvie's Patreon in supporting the Muay Thai Library, and we just want to give you like an orientation on what the Muay Thai Library is, and also because one of the difficulties with the library is it's so huge, over 120 hours.
Which is good.
Yes. Well, it's good, but it causes some problems because people come to 120 hours of video with legends and great crews of Thailand, and they're like, where the hell do I start?
Yeah.
It's a good problem because the amount of material that you have at your fingertips is immense, but it is hard to figure out how to get in sometimes. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is the library, what makes it different than any other online resource, and also we're going to, I guess, talk about our favorite sessions. These are like the ones that we're like, don't miss these sessions. Okay, so I don't hog the horn. What do you want to explain what the Muay Thai Library is, and maybe a little bit why it's different than anything else you're going to find online?
Well, the Muay Thai Library is a archive, really, but the point is to preserve the legacy of the Muay Thai of Thailand. So we want all kinds of different Muay. We want some of the greatest legends ever, as well as crews that just kind of exemplify all the different Muay that is in Thailand. That's amazing. We use a long form way of filming the sessions, so it's not highlights, it's not edits. You're actually watching me learn as I learn from them, and then I have a voiceover to help explain what's being said in Thai, as well as what I'm feeling or what's being taught and that kind of thing.
Well, let me race. There's a couple interesting points right in there. If you don't know us, Kevin and Sylvie, we do the Muay Thai Bones podcast and, of course, create the library. Sylvie was saying all the different Muay of Thailand. One of the things that if you haven't been to Thailand, and even a few years ago, people outside of Thailand tended to feel like there were 1 or 2 proper ways of doing a strike or fighting in a style or something. But if you come to Thailand and you talk to the great fighters of the past, it's like a rainforest of fight knowledge. Every single great fighter had a different way of fighting. A single great gym would have various styles within that gym. And so part of the motivation of the Muay Thai Library and what you've come upon is a rainforest of knowledge. You're not going to be told in any particular way that this is how you kick, this is how you knee, this is a mistake, this is correct. It's actually about documenting an incredible variety of knowledge.
Yeah, and because of the long form, and part of what I love about the like spending an hour with these men as they're teaching me is that you get to see them as well. Like you get to see what kind of person they are, what kind of fighter they are, how funny they are, how scary they are, that kind of thing. But when they're teaching an element of their style that is in opposition to someone else's element of that same style, an example would be the like, when you block, do you flex your foot or do you point your toe? People think there's a right or a wrong to that. There is no wrong, but when it's right for someone, it fits within their style or their personality almost. And so you understand why they do it that way because it fits within the entire style.
The foot pointing is a pretty esoteric, small difference. It would be a more obvious thing would be like how to knee. Like,
right, lean back, don't lean back.
Do you lean back, do you not? Do you angle the knee? Do you bring the knee straight? Like literally great fighters and great crews will have a different way of kneeing because the knee is used for a different purpose within their style, and everything you do has an advantage or a disadvantage. So one of the cool things about the Muay Thai Library is you get to go for an hour. Sylvie, if you don't know, Sylvie travels all over Thailand. She's the most prolific Western fighter in the history of Thailand that we know of, and she's going to improve her Muay. Like her Muay Thai, she's there to study for herself, but also to bring out the details of that style. And we're with them usually an hour or more. And so you get to see this evolution of instruction that's very, very different than somebody starting a video camera and being like, I'm going to teach you how to punch. I'm going to teach you how to knee, or whatever it is. There's something very organic going on. It strikes me very much almost like a travel show, like the most interesting travel show.
Yeah, I also, it's always been my style to be this way since Master K's basement. If you don't know what that is, you can go on my YouTube and see where I started, was in this basement of this 80-year-old Thailand, Master K. We didn't want to do highlight videos. We didn't want to show me getting it. We wanted to show me not getting it for a really long time, and then ultimately kind of understanding it or not. I didn't do voiceover back in the day. Now that I do voiceover and I have way more knowledge than I used to, I'm able to really pull out what I'm doing wrong or not, whereas that wasn't something I could do before. But something that I love about the library, and I think I will love when I'm toothless and watching it kind of thing, is that I don't want to be standing in front of you being like, I learned this thing from this guy. I want him showing me while you're watching. Like, I don't want to be secondhand. I want primary source material, and I'm helping explain it. But watch him teach me, not me coming and making
I would also suggest this leads right to like how to get the most out of the library, which is keep your eye on both parties, the crew or the legendary fighter. And
I love when
Sylvie.
people are like, I've watched this 5 times. I'm like, yes, because you can watch it once, watching everything his feet are doing, then watch it again, what I'm doing, and like back and forth. People totally watch these sessions many times. It's so cool.
Many times. But what I'm saying as a hint is like, and maybe it'll take you a while to develop the watching skill of what to look for, but you want to see, we want to include Sylvie reaching for the technique or the style or the element, and then the crew displaying it in the beauty of their purity, like 20, 30, sometimes 50 years of experience. And the relationship between Sylvie and the crew is what you should watch as somebody who's watching it, is that you watch this dialogue, and so you can discover the mistakes that are probable when trying to do this.
Yeah.
The errors, this is a very big part of Muay Thai, is self-correction.
Yeah.
When you can get to the point that you can correct yourself, then you can do a lot of work on your own, on the bag or in shadow. You don't need your crew right there. And so watching the errors and the evolution of Sylvie as the student and the corrections, you can get ideas of where there might be potholes. So you can develop self-correction, which is super, super valuable.
Yeah.
I guess that little trigger in my mind that be aware, and we've heard this from a lot of people, if you're not in a Thai gym, or even if you are in a Thai gym, but if you're in a gym, you might be told a very narrow branch of a very wondrous tree of strikes or techniques.
That's what your trainer knows.
Your trainer knows from what they learned. And usually trainers come from a coaching tree of 2 or 3, sometimes 4 coaching styles at the most. So literally 100 crews. Like, the diversity here is intense, but that means it might also be difficult for you to bring some of this stuff into the gym. And we've heard back from people that coaches don't really appreciate that suddenly you're shadowboxing like Yod Kumpan, where who shadowboxes like this?
Yeah.
Well, an all-time legend shadowboxes like this, and it's like nothing you've ever seen. And so you want to be judicious in how you bring this knowledge to your gym, because you have to be respectful to your crews, but they may not have watched the Muay Thai Library, although we do hope that coaches watch more and more and more of the library so that they themselves have more of the context of their already existing knowledge. It doesn't mean anyone's wrong. This is a very big part of this. In the West, we try to think of correcting errors.
Yep.
But it's more about, these are all different ways of speaking the Muay of Thailand.
Yeah, and these legends will disagree with each other. Like, harshly.
Well, not presently in the video, but if you ask them, they would be like, no, that's not right.
People have a reason why they do something like that, and they will defend why that reason is, because that's their style. So it's interesting to expand your knowledge on what the possibilities are, and then also select the things that work well for you.
Yeah, well, can you maybe talk about that a little bit? Because this is something that you have been asked about, is like, how do you pick out the elements that you want to use, because you're not going to adopt an entire Karahat style. How do you harvest the things? How do you identify what you want to focus on and get more value out of these? Because you are there sitting there with these crews, but people at home are watching them.
I don't, I think that the word decide is a little bit weird, because you can decide some of the things that work for you and some that don't, where you're like, I like that and it feels good when I do it. That is two good things that work together, and so you're going to end up doing it a lot. If something feels good and it works for you, you will naturally just do it more.
If you're courageous for it, like if you pursue
in general. But then there are things that take you by surprise. Like there are things that I learned from femur stylists that I am not a femur fighter, and shockingly they felt really good and worked really well when I would play with them, and I would not have selected that as like something that I wanted for myself, but there it is, just appearing.
Well, some of it is very interesting, like the influence of Karahat, who is one of the most liquid fighters that ever fought, and you're a Muay Khao Dern fighter, very kind of like tough and forward, but Karahat has always appealed to you for some reason.
Yeah,
like
to me, Karahat's not a surprise because he's my favorite fighter. So when I watch him, and I'm so excited to have me imitate him and do things like him and have that have impact on me, to me is kind of an obvious thing. But like Nam Sak Noi affected me incredibly, and I did not go into it thinking that was going to be the case. But then 2 weeks after the session, I'm like doing all this nonsense.
Oh, sure, but you were not doing Karahat things 3 years ago, and he was your favorite fighter.
That's true.
I guess my point is that one of the ways to figure out what is a good thing to take is to listen to the things you're attracted to.
Yeah.
And it might not be time for you to use them now.
Yeah.
Like you had to master a lot of things with your eyes and your comfort in space to start tapping into Karahat. But 3-4 years ago, you just loved Karahat, and there's tons of Karahat in the library. I'm just saying, when you're attracted to something, that's probably something that would be good to start playing with.
Yeah.
As a rule. Just thinking it's cool or something.
Yeah.
Because if it tickles your fancy, if it lights you up, that means there's something inside of you that connects with this. And that is more important than just doing what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the best things about the use of the library is finding things that tickle your eyeballs. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
No.
Yes.
Oh, so, well, if people are new, I don't know. How do we want to go about this?
I don't know, like how do you start or something? Well, one thing is, this is something that we've been, when people will message us and they're like, I don't know what to do, but I really want to look at clinch or something. We do have keywords, like we have tags that if you want to see basics, or if you want to see kickers, Muay Mat, Muay Khao, clinching, we have tags like that you can search for sessions that
I think they're on the home page of the Patreon, that you can find these tags listed, and then it will filter out the Muay Thai library. Right now there's over 100 sessions, I think, in the library. So that could narrow things down. But I guess, and I think we're going to, maybe, I don't want to say we're going to do this, but maybe we'll do more videos, like we're going to do something about if you're a Muay Khao fighter, how to get into the library. Basics, looking for basics as a beginner. There's a basics tag, but the ones you really want to see, like start trying to like strip the library down for people who have narrower focuses. But this video is for people who are just new to the library, and these are like, you don't want to miss these. So what we did was we picked our top 5, but we didn't tell each other what our top 5 are. So hopefully it's not like we agree 100%.
That'd be interesting if we agree.
So this is Sylvie's and mine top 5 library sessions. They're kind of like, if you're new to the library, you don't want to miss these.
Yeah.
Because they were very, very special, right?
So do you want to like do one person and the other?
Yes,
or do you want to do like 1 and 1?
One person, no, 1 and 1, 1 and 1, back and forth.
Do I have to go first then?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. So we ask like great fighters who their all-time top 5 are, and then we always ask them why, kind of thing. So we're gonna say what our favorite session is and
Well,
why.
this is gonna be way more why than
Well, we're way
2
more
minutes.
geeky.
Yeah.
than
Like this
that
is
we
all
asked.
about the why, right? This is not actually, we're not just listing something.
So these are not in order, but Jam Patong was one of my all-time favorites, and the reason
Jam
for that,
Patong.
the reason for that is that it bridged a couple of things
This is a recent one.
that happen in the library that are my favorite, and it was a bunch of the things all at once that I love. One is that he is
Well,
not.
let's say who he is first, because this is for new
So
people.
Jam Patong Nor Nantachai was a fighter of the Golden Age. He was Rajadamnern champion at 118 pounds. He beat Samart twice.
2 times, which I don't think anyone has done.
He
had
is
done.
like the head kick specialist. So he was knocking people out with head kicks. And I love when someone's a specialist because then everyone looks out for that thing and they still
They still pull it off. They still pull it
have that
off.
happen to them. It's hilarious. Within like the first 10 minutes of me training with Chumok Pet, who's one of the greatest fighters of all time, he was telling me about getting knocked out by Jam Patong. Like he remembers him as this.
So
monster.
what is it, if you're new to the library, why do you want to watch the Jam Patong
Well, this
session?
is what I'm saying. This is why it's one of my favorites, and it has a bunch of things that I love about it.
Cool.
One, he is a specialist in something, which means that we're going to geek out on one thing. I love when we geek out on like one thing with a trainer. 2, he's not a crew. He actually runs a restaurant. And so he came to teach after having not done Muay Thai, like literally not worked out. And what did his brother say? Like 30 years?
30 years he hadn't been in a gym. This guy is ripping head kicks, landing them. 30 years. I don't care. That's incredible.
It is incredible.
It is like a living phenomenon.
Yes.
30 years. You stop doing anything for 30 years, you warm up a little bit, and suddenly your art is unfolding.
Yeah.
It's really something
Yeah.
special.
And he still sets it up perfectly, like kind of like is playing with it perfectly. Then another element that came into the session, his older brother is Gulab Khao, who's also in the Muay Thai Library. He is the like manager of Jit Muang Nan Gym now. And Gulab Khao was also Rajadamnern champion, 135 pounds. But they're brothers. So Gulab Khao brought his brother out of the restaurant to come to the gym for the first time in 30 years to teach me this geek out session of the head kick, this like one thing. And the two of them were sparring together a little bit in order to like show me this technique. And watching these two men in their 60s become like 12 and 13 years old sparring each
so
other like they
cute.
did
It was so cute.
was something you never get to see. And not only did we get to see it and witness it, but we recorded it, and now however many
It's like
will see it.
it's like a time machine going back to
Gulab Khao
1986.
face down on the floor after being head kicked laughing is like one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that brings out what's really different about the Muay Thai Library is that it's pulling into the present pieces of the past that are about to vanish.
That might not
Might.
have even happened ever.
That
Like Gulab Khao was not going to be like, "Hey, bro, come play with me."
he
at
would
the gym."
never even come.
No.
He Gulab Khao wasn't even going to do
And
it
3 weeks later, we saw a bunch of Jit Muang Nan fighters throwing head kicks.
in Stadium Muay Thai.
Stadium Muay
They were
Thai.
throwing. We have a strong suspicion that this fading technique was refolded into one of the most prominent gyms of Thailand in Stadium Muay Thai,
Yeah.
and won with the won with the head kick.
I don't remember, but they
I
were
remember
landing them. They were
he
good. Hmm.
won with it. So that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, so that's one.
Okay, let me see what mine is. These are not in order. I'm not even going to look because I already know what mine is.
Oh, don't look. Don't
But
cry.
it's a little bit.
Don't cry.
Totally. I don't know. I think there's 2 sessions of Samson Hassan.
I knew you were gonna pick him.
You knew that,
He was an alternate for me, but I'm like, Kevin's got Samson.
baby. This is another of those. This
Would never happen.
You would never record this. This would be lost to history. You can look at Samson Hassan's fights on YouTube. He was the 1991, I believe, Fighter of the Year, and then had a 46-0 pro boxing career. He is incredible. But he's a taxi driver now. And he doesn't train people. He has the most incredible joy, glee for Muay Thai. As a fighter he did, but he has it to this day. He has this incredible just kid's joy. And there's 2 sessions. I don't remember which one's more of my favorite, because in the second one he's even more comfortable with teaching.
Came out of his shell a little bit.
Came out of his shell. But the first one he's like, what do you want me to teach? And then he just starts teaching this style, which is just this like marching on someone with full max protect, a boxerly rolling, we call it the juggernaut, where he just like comes into the space. So not only is his like Muay there, but this is also a Muay that really is not in the library by anyone else.
Nor could it be.
There's nobody really who fought like, there might have been people who fought like him, but of everyone we filmed, I've never seen Muay like this. And I kind of like, I want you to steal his Muay. Because it's so beautiful, this like clinch heavy, but like heavy fisted, but pressing Muay Thai.
His knees are just so...
It's everything about him, his movements, his ripping of those hands. And then, of course, he's a taxi driver, and then we call him into the gym, and he just starts to like find his joy and express his Muay. So that's my first choice of like, do not miss, because these are just like, nothing like it exists anywhere. Okay.
Oh,
next
back
one.
to me.
Yes.
Okay, so this might surprise you, actually, because this is someone who terrifies me. I'm very afraid of this person, but Ajahn Surat is one of my favorite Muay Thai Library sessions. And
There's 2, but the second one, right?
It's just that he's in the library, honestly. Because Ajahn Surat, it's not only me who's afraid of him. He is one of the most feared trainers.
Let people know who
like
new to Muay Thai or whatever.
40 years or something, he's been a trainer who he took care of like Boon Lai. There's a very hilarious story of Karahat running away from him after a single round of pads, which they tell that story very differently, each in their own defense. Ajahn Surat is in his 60s. He is very gruff. He says what he thinks. He thinks harsh things. But he's very pure in that he both understands and respects what we think and what we do with the Muay Thai Library of trying to preserve this Muay that's changing so fast. And so Ajahn Surat is like this figure in Muay Thai who is like a thread that's been pulled from this unraveling sweater of the golden age. And he teaches a style that's an older school style that doesn't really exist anymore, but he still has stadium fighters. Oh, he just makes such strong fighters.
He makes very strong fighters, but he teaches the pin chai no arm swing on the kick, which is fairly uncommon now. But you don't swing with the arm, and he teaches a very kind of like strong, regimented kind of like frame that makes you imperturbable.
Yeah.
Like there's
balance is like number one.
There's stuff in there that will improve your Muay Thai no matter what style you have. Even if you don't adopt his style, he is fucking hitting the nail on the head on this Muay. That's really incredible. And then he himself is just an incredible man.
Yeah, I would think of
my favorite
Ajahn
men.
Surat as like an anvil. Not in that you like hit him, he's definitely hitting you, but he's the anvil in that no matter what metal you lay on it and where you hit it, it's shaping. Yeah. The foundations of Surat will shape whatever kind of fighter you are to have this foundation. Like you can become a sword or
any tool, whatever tool it is.
Whatever, but you've got this foundation that is shaping you with whatever's hitting you.
Totally. You did surprise me with that one. You did like this. I'm like, Sylvie, we're gonna go see Ajahn Surat. You're like, ah.
I'm dying. I can't go.
Okay. My next one is Namsak Noi. and it's the second session, but they're both really good. Nam Sok Noi, the Emperor, I forgot when he was Fighter of the Year, 1996.
It was kind of late, yeah.
He's, because the internet loves highlights and they love his name, he kind of got and he was with Evolve, he kind of got known to everyone in the internet. He was embraced, and there are his fights on YouTube, but his Muay, his philosophy, doesn't exist anywhere. Like, it is. I really like when in a session there's something that doesn't exist in the rest of the library. There is lots of times fighters' styles overlap. His Muay and his thinking pattern is, and he spent a lot of time teaching Westerners at Evolve, or not Western, some Westerners, but mostly in Singapore, right? But even non-professional fighters. So he's more along the lines of how to explain things. But he has a very sophisticated fight mentality and a philosophy really that he seems to have developed that maybe he didn't have as a fighter, and it's these edge attacks that he's doing, these deep edge attacks where he's walking across your opponent. Go ahead.
He's big. Like, he's a lot of what he was doing, we were like, oh, Karahat does that, but Karahat's tiny and Nam Sok Noi is tall. Now he's huge, but he was kind of a big fighter, and he's moving like.
Yeah, but he didn't. He has Karahat energy and movements at times, but Karahat does not cut the angle like that.
No, he melts.
Karahat's melting around. Nam Sok Noi, what I love about this is how he's teaching these like angle cuts, and they're very fluid movements, but they're so foundational to how to attack an opponent, especially a traditional Muay Thai opponent. A traditional Muay Thai opponent tends to be right in a linear track, right in front of you. Muay Thai fighters tend to fight like on a railroad back and forth like this. There is some movement, and then with greats, of course, there's lots of movement. But he is teaching something that's kind of like how to deconstruct your opponent at a very high level. This thought stuff can be applicable to anybody, but it's a high level instruction, but made very, very clear. And he's a very generous teacher.
He's very sweet. If you're talking about the second session, I don't think I've ever laughed so hard throughout an entire hour in my life as with the Nam Sok Noi Part 2. But also, what's kind of incredible about him, experiencing him as the one who was learning, is that his style is so punishing. Everything is punished. If you're slow, you're punished. If you're hesitant, you're punished. If you strike first, you're punished. If you take up space, you're punished. Like, yeah, he's just always on the like upper hand.
Occasionally we train with these people, and Sylvie's training as a professional fighter to improve herself and understand things more. But occasionally we run into someone who I'm like, I would like Sylvie to train with this person for like 6 months. And Nam Sok Noi is one of those people. I feel like what he has to teach is kind of like bottomless in its application. It's really, really beautiful. And there are some people, like you say, that you take to without it knowing you're gonna. Like, he wasn't your favorite fighter before, but then you get involved in their Muay and their style and their rhythm, and you're like, you took so many things from him, the hand traps and the angle cuts and the like offbeat attacks. Like, you absorbed a lot from him. So I would be like, that's something, if you're new to library, that you want to watch.
For sure. We might want to start this again.
There we go.
Do you need 1, 2, 3 go?
No. We just started the camera over.
Is it my turn?
Yes, it's your turn.
Okay.
This is your number 3?
Yeah, they're not in order, but this is my third time.
Third time.
Yeah. So, you will not be surprised by this. This is not surprising.
I actually wouldn't know what to pick for you.
Chat Chai, I'm picking.
Oh.
And the reason I'm picking Chat Chai Sasakun, he was WBC champion. He lost his belt to Pacquiao. He is one of my favorite people in the world. I adore Chat Chai. But the
it's hard to pick somebody better more.
Is because there are entries in the library where you keep saying that this is me training with people for myself, and then we film it and make it into this whole thing. There are people who I train with who change my world. Like, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I kind of have a thing, and then it's just this like leap into a different pond almost.
Yeah.
And he was that for me quickly.
Because of the weight transfer.
Yeah, and balance and like efficiency. And I feel like the things that I learned from Chart Chai even allowed me to understand what Sagat was telling me. Like there are people I understand because of Chart Chai.
4 sessions in the library. Was there one that sticks out for you? Because I'm going to link, I don't want to link all of these. Like,
you can just go with the first one, honestly, because it's his like his basic like, just bring your weight like this. Yes, just make that more efficient this way, and it's.
Well, let me ask you because.
And sorry.
Oh, please.
And I love that the way that he teaches, like his style and his like ultra foundational thing. We've had people comment. I'm at my cubicle at work watching your session, and I stood up and did what he was showing and could do it. Like he's not like. Oh, I have to figure this out.
That's one of the more beautiful things, and when you can find a great teacher, is when they talk about a basic thing, that is just like, and it opens up every technique.
I know, he's like a witch doctor.
His witch doctor? It's not what I would think of. But what's kind of interesting about it, he's teaching boxing weight shifts, but he was a golden age Muay Thai fighter, a stadium fighter, who fought all the great fighters. Hippie, he fought
Karat.
Yeah. He fought all the great fighters. And then he went on to a boxing career and became WBC world champion. I know that expert people like to be like, boxing footwork is one thing and Muay Thai footwork is another thing, and they don't go well together. Maybe in some people's minds, but not in Chart Chai's mind.
And not in the way he teaches. It is like...
He sees no...
Seamless.
Difference.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that there aren't possible conflicts. And he also teaches weight transfer that not all boxers teach. It's a particular style of transferring your weight to the opposite foot. But that weight transfer did really impact you. You started doing it in the gym right away, and it started really the beginning of feeling.
Yes.
You have to feel your strikes. It's not just a biomechanical, get the right angle, don't make a mistake. He started the whole thing with feeling your strikes, which you now take to every technique and every strike.
And it took me a while. It took me more than probably 2 years since learning from him to actually be able to like, oh, I totally get what that is. But he's the one who he planted that seed. He introduced that.
Oh man, and he is literally, there's so many beautiful Muay Thai fighters in the library, and every time I think of one, I'm like, there's nobody sweeter than this person. Like, who's sweeter than Diesel Noi? Nobody. But Chart Chai is like one of these people, you're like, who's sweeter than Chart Chai? Nobody. Like, that's another thing about the Muay Thai library, is you get to see these very special men. And it's kind of amazing how many of them are just like off the charts, amazing people.
Yeah.
Like, aside from their ability to coach or do amazing things. Okay, so that's a very good one.
Thank you.
Okay. Mine, we haven't had any overlap, which is kind of amazing.
This is amazing.
What?
But we're also not like no to each other.
Oh no, honest to God,
There's no bad sessions.
I don't think there is a bad session in the Muay Thai library,
There have been times that didn't work and they don't go in, so it's like...
Yeah, but when something goes in, it's like, this is like no other thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like there's over 100. You literally could watch these 20 times. They're incredible. It's really, we've been doing this almost 5 years now, I think. Yeah. What are you doing?
It's your turn.
I know. You're rushing me?
No, I said that's crazy.
Oh, okay. You whispered. You went crazy.
I was cursing.
Okay. Chamuk Pat.
1 or 2?
Two, probably. There's 2 sessions.
He was more comfortable in 2.
He was more comfortable, but watch 1 to go to 2. 1, he has the claim, he could be, like, it's in the conversation for the greatest Muay Thai fighter ever. He just won at all kinds of weight classes, holds the record for the most national stadium belts to this day of anyone in history. Fought and won at the championship level till in his 30s, right?
Against like rising phenoms.
Yeah. He is, and his Muay is so vocabulary rich.
Very versatile.
He is but he's not a versatile, like you can't tell what style I am. He's a Muay Thai fighter. He's a pressure fighter. He can fight backwards if he wants, but he's not an indistinct fighter. He has a very distinct fighter. He was a gym mate of Diesel Noi, also a Muay Thai fighter, and as he unfolds his Muay, you start to see a philosophy about how he like builds his southpaw attack, and he has a sharpness to his Muay that is just really very beautiful. But I also love about this session is that he lives in Japan. He doesn't live in Thailand, and his Muay is kind of like locked over there, and we were able to get him when he came for a visa run and capture 2 sessions with him. But the second one is when he really starts to unflow. He's a very kind of shy guy and quiet, right?
Who's sweeter than Chimopet?
Yeah,
nobody.
But I love this session because of the complexity of technique and his attention to detail, like his like vertical knee and situational teaching, like when you do this. I just feel like if you come to the library and you watch this session, you're seeing something that's just like very, very rare. And he kind of teaches, because he's been teaching in Japan for so long, he has a flavor to his Muay and his teaching style that is different than everyone else in the library.
I agree with that.
And he also feels very pragmatic. Like, if you do this, you can go into a fight next week and win. Like, I feel like there's something very grounded. Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have anything more to say about Chomupet?
To me, there was a huge difference. I adored him already after the first session, but the second one was just like an anime character that transforms into another thing that you're like, I didn't know you could do that. Like, he just had this other level that came out, and it seemed like it could have kept going. Like,
yeah, I agree with that. Okay, your last one.
No.
Oh.
This is only 4 for me.
That's 4?
Yeah.
Oh.
Did you not do enough?
I did 5, so.
You have 2 more?
I have 1 more.
Then you did it wrong.
I have 5.
Then you skipped 1.
Can't look at that.
Okay. So, Diesel Noi in the How to Fight Tall session.
Oh, okay, I'm glad you picked one.
I love Diesel Noi. So he has, as a figure, as a mentor,
who is he?
Who's Diesel Noi?
Baby, there are people literally who are like, they just started Muay Thai a month ago.
I know.
You cannot.
I know. But it's like, I don't watch basketball. Who's Michael Jordan? Like Diesel Noi. Okay, so Diesel Noi is like the king of Muay Thai. He is the knee fighter. He was Fighter of the Year in 1982 after beating Samart in this like holy grail fight.
Death match.
He was this like rising phenom at 16, fighting these like people who'd been holding the kingdom for so long. He fought Wichinoi, who's like a Silver Age icon, 3 times, finally beating him in the last one. He became Lumpini champion at 135 pounds, which is actually above the weight that he should have been fighting at. So he fought up, even though he was super tall. And he was just unbeatable for like 4 years. He held this title and just nobody could beat him. And ultimately, he's a sad story in that he was basically forced into retirement, but in his...
At 24.
In his being forced into retirement, he became kind of like a mentor coach to 2 other fighters of the year, Chmukpet, who we were just talking about, and Panam Tuanlet, who is also a knee fighter out of the Hapalong gym. So Diesel Noi is like, not only was he this incredible kind of like Bigfoot, mystical, amazing figure back in his day, but he is also this larger-than-life pillar of Muay Thai now, in that he kind of like just knows everybody, goes everywhere, everyone loves him. He's so funny and outspoken and respectful and like unreal. As there's nobody like Diesel Noy. We love him a lot. And as a mentor, like as a you are my hero kind of person, Diesel Noy has impacted me and influenced me maybe more than anyone, including Karahat, who I really, really love.
And you've trained with a lot.
I've trained with Karahat more than I've trained with Diesel Noy, but the things that Diesel Noy infuses me with and talks to me about.
Some of the things he expresses in his Muay are almost life lessons.
They are life
like,
lessons.
You shall not surrender. You do not show weakness. You are fearless and relentless,
like,
and you have great joy about
breathe more badass. It's like incredible.
Like he's very. So in a certain regard, in this session, there's maybe 4 sessions in the library with him, but this session.
And this session's very interesting because for Diesel Noy to have such an impact on me, it's a little bit comical how physically different me and Diesel Noy are. He's incredibly tall. He's like 6'1". He's got these long arms. He's very like gruff cowboy type of man. I'm 5'1" on a good day.
On a good day.
Like scraping 100 pounds. Like very not like Diesel Noy, but I can still do the Diesel Noy thing because he's all about heart. Why I choose this session is that he is teaching Caro, who is a French fighter. She was at my gym for a while. We're very good friends, and she also loves Diesel Noy. Diesel Noy taught Caro, who is very tall. And so we called this Fighting Tall, and it was kind of this amazing moment of having this mentor icon who's been teaching me and influencing me teach his style to the body type that he is. And this is not to say you have to be tall to fight like Diesel Noy at all whatsoever. People should not be like, I'm not tall, so I can't fight like Diesel Noy.
Some people make the mistake of thinking he is only good because he was tall, and that's one of the beautiful things about him is that he has things that have nothing to do with his height. He's very technically proficient, very tactical fighter, and teaches a kind of tempo and heart that small fighters can do, like Chomung Pet, who was his gym mate.
Yeah, but if you like, you take a ghost that gets to like possess bodies and do amazing things, and it does amazing things, and then you're like, this one looks like how you looked. It's gonna possess it differently.
So that's why you love it. Why should they love it? Like a new person to the library. Why would you want to watch this?
Here's the thing. I was gonna make a statement when we first started just talking about the library in general, which is that I think people have a misunderstanding that like, I can't be this type of fighter because I'm such and such body type. That's not the case. Like there are female fighters at all sizes. There are Muay Khao at all sizes. There are Muay Mat at all sizes. The things that change are what your actual body does. So like you cannot be a long fighter if you're short, but you can be, But
you can use long techniques folded in with other things, like you learned with long guard,
but
right?
your reach is going to be different kind of thing. So in this, Diesel Noy is teaching his style, which anyone can do, to how to also be tall. And what I really love is that Diesel Noy has been teaching me, and especially at the Muay Khao Summit, we did this Muay Khao Summit in 2018 where he came and advised. It was women from all over the world coming to learn Muay Khao style. And he was like, I don't care how tall you are. If you're 4'3", fight tall. Like be tall, because in Thailand, the hierarchy of the body and roop, which is like your posture and how you hold yourself, matters. Right. So it doesn't matter if you're 4'8" or 6'8".
Yeah.
Fight tall.
Yeah.
And so he's teaching fight tall to a body type that honestly, I think in Caro's experience in the world, has tried to not be tall. And it's like, fucking own it.
Yeah.
Like, be tall.
Yeah.
Like, your wings fly.
Totally.
I'm gonna cry.
You are.
I loved watching Caro in that session too. It's totally one of my favorites. I'm gonna cry.
Getting all weepy.
I am all weepy. I'm gonna text Caro after this.
Okay, I don't know what's up with 5 and 6. I have only one left.
You skipped one then.
Oh no, I did. Oh,
there you
thank
go.
you.
I know
You're
how
right.
to count to 5.
Okay. Which one do I want to say now? Okay, I'll say this one is a big one. Maybe this is on your list. Some aren't.
He's not on my list, but he was gonna be.
And if you don't know who Samart is, real quickly, the most famous, most heralded, most goatish fighter in Thai history. Fighter of the Year 3 times, won a world title as a boxer.
Loved by everybody.
Loved by everybody. He is the prince, the appointed prince of Muay Thai.
Actor, singer.
And the truth of the matter is, before we filmed with Samart, he wasn't really our favorite fighter.
Yeah, that was why he was going to be on my list too.
He was very like, not in the style that we love. And the feeling is like he was anointed by the media, almost like his aura went out far beyond who he was. Mm. But if you are new to the library, watch the Samart session. Because it's, what he teaches is so relaxed and basic. But for Samart, it's where it all comes from. Mm. It is the ground, the soil that grows every plant. And even though he's just teaching really basic symmetrical movements and everything, you get that contrast between Sylvie's body learning and Samart's body just kind of like moving through the shapes, and you can see what he is. And then the grace of what he is expressing is kind of profound, and you get why he is the anointed prince of Muay Thai.
That was my experience and why he was going to be on my list as like kind of a trying to pick kind of thing, is that he's not just my style. I don't love watching whatever, but within like 40 seconds of standing in front of him, I was just like, oh. Like
you had a much stronger feeling than I did. I was just with a camera, but you had almost like profound feeling of something. It's
like enchantment or charm. Like some people are just so charming that you're like, this person's charisma is incredible. And it's not his, like, he is very personally charismatic, but his Muay is charismatic.
He just snake charmed opponents. Like, for real. Yeah, exactly. He has a way of moving that you want to see that, so that you understand something about the Muay of Thailand.
I can't. One of my favorite things about meeting him in that session is he has this chuckle. It's kind of like under his breath chuckle.
Yeah, it's disapproving chuckle.
It's not disapproving, but he would be like, no, what you're doing, no. And it's like if you have like some amazingly sexy woman who just everything she does is charming and beautiful, like every way she moves, and then some person's trying to imitate it, and it's just like, no.
Well, you don't want to take it away from the Muay, though. It's
his Muay.
It's the Muay.
He is so, like, he looks like he's standing at a bus stop.
Which we say all the time.
Completely balanced and fluid. Like, he makes no missteps. He never breaks character or root or anything.
And his foot placement or stance is not by the book.
No. You can't teach to be like Samart.
Well, but he is teaching. Otherwise, why watch the video? It's like you have to find Thamachat in Thailand is your nature.
Yes.
And what Samart did is he found his nature. Like how he stands is him. It's not special. Like you say, it's like he's at a bus stop. But his ability to find ground in himself is something worth finding for yourself, even in small degrees.
Right.
Because the more you do this, the more your Muay Thai is going to improve.
And in going back to Chart Chai, how like you don't have to have boxing, Muay Thai, and then boxing for Muay Thai. That is all one thing. Chart Chai took what he is from Muay Thai and went into boxing and was that in boxing, and it was just.
You're talking about Samart.
Samart. What did I say?
They both did. You said Chart Chai, but they both did.
Samart.
They both became WBC world champions.
Yeah.
Coming right out of their Muay Thai careers, and I don't know. So it's a very special, which is so interesting. I wouldn't normally have picked him, but there's something irresistible about this session that illustrates his greatness.
Yeah.
It's that kind of like, it's really something else. especially if you're new to Muay Thai. But
I think another thing in that session that was kind of like revelatory to me is that the order in which things are often taught, which totally makes sense. Like there is a pedagogy of how this works, which is that you step here so that you can kick like that. In the same way that he is truly ambidextrous, where like he feels no dominant side because they're all dominant sides, the way he teaches is where you land is
your
important.
next thing.
Like it's not just step here so that you can fire your shot. It's like you step here, your shot fires, and you come back out, and now you have this other thing. It's just this completely like.
And this is old school Muay Thai principles which were much more ambidextrous, less stance driven on orthodox or southpaw. So you're also getting a Muay that really isn't taught very much anymore. That you also get it in Karahat style, those sessions with him, but nobody does it like water. Like it's really something. It's really something. And he has a great kick in there too that nobody quite kicks like a fucking straight arrow thing. Yeah. Okay, what's your last one?
My last one is the Yodkunpan shadowboxing session.
Oh my God!
Do we have the same one?
No, but I cannot believe that Wang Chinoy did not make your top 5.
He was so close!
Baby, I cannot believe. I cannot believe. His ears are ringing right now.
I had honorable mention for Wang Chinoy, which I will say here.
I can't believe he wasn't your first.
First. Wang Chinoy is 100% one of those sessions where it's like Sylvie was milling around in this pool and then just got popped into a different pool. Wang Chinoy was that for
Thus,
me.
you love him.
I love fighters who I'm terrified of.
Yes.
Like, he's so scary. Lakin, also very scary. But
all right. Okay. But 5 is 5.
But the reason I chose the Yodkunpan shadowboxing one
it's a good one.
is because for the Muay Thai library being like nothing else on the internet.
Yeah.
This is Yodkunpan Sitraipum is the elbow hunter of 100 stitches. This is what his chaya alias was in Thailand, which is one of the most badass names ever. But he's known as an elbow fighter, which is like not a highly respected form, even though he was absolutely fucking incredible at it. But he also has this lineage that's not unusual for Muay Thai, but stands out in that we don't recognize how so many fighters came out like this. He kind of built himself and like carved himself out of this. Well,
let me take a little detour here. Is that we've asked great like fighters of the year, fighters like who taught you your style, and none of them have said a particular
this is the
coach.
Thing. So many are like self-formed, not self-taught, but like self-formed.
Yeah.
Samart stands out in that he was a Sidiotong fighter, and so he had a lot of like kind of Baran type style instruction, which is not what made him
but look what he became.
It's not what made him what
Nobody
he is,
made
but
him.
It's a different pedagogy than everyone else. But so Yodkunpan used shadowboxing and heart to like carve himself into this incredible balloon, like dancing, balletic, elbow hunting fighter.
Well, you have to say what a balloon is. Sounds not
the
like
way that he kind of like gallops across the ring with his footwork to me is like a deflated party balloon the next day. How it just kind of like
weightless
pops. And then he just destroys the person once.
Yeah, he's a vicious fighter. Actually, he's probably the most vicious fighter of anyone that we.
It's like if you
we filmed with
ballet with razors or something. It's like really
he's a very
amazing.
relentless, vicious fighter.
But I've trained with Yodkunpan for a long time by myself. We also have him in the Muay Thai library. We also have an intensive with him on demand, which is 7 days training with him. And I've learned a lot of things from Yodkunpan. He's also someone who has greatly influenced me as a fighter. This particular session, everybody knows shadowboxing is part of training.
Yeah,
I really like,
or should be.
I like the library sessions where we learn how to train. Long Sawan was also on there for me of like, he broke through, like this is how you train, golden era style. Yodkunpan really getting into how you shadowbox, like what shadowboxing is for, how you get the most out of it, how you do it well. This is not something that exists anywhere. People are like,
I don't think he shadowboxed like anyone else either. Like it wasn't just like everyone knows this, but no one's recorded it. I think he grew up in a pretty poor town. There was no equipment. he literally created himself out of shadowboxing until he got opportunities to then level up, and level up.
Came late.
Later in his
Late.
development.
Yeah.
But he is like, no, 20 minutes a day shadowboxing. And we spend an hour
Yep.
of him teaching shadowboxing and the two of you shadowboxing. It is, I agree, like this, if you're new to the library, one, this is nowhere in the world. Two, this will impact your Muay Thai.
And it teaches you all kinds of other skills in learning how to do that well. It teaches you all kinds of other skills.
Like
that are
what?
really, visualization, timing, fluidity, knowing where you are, balance, breathing. Like all of these things are very important, and they all come out of the like peripheral techniques to be able to do.
I love how it goes counter to almost all shadowbox instruction on the internet, which is like
You should be ahead of breath.
combos and but whatever it is, he has an entirely different philosophy. But you've been doing it for now, I don't know, 3-4 months maybe,
Maybe.
something like that. It has changed your Muay.
Yeah.
Like we also know that it works, not just for him, but it actually impacts your Muay. Improves your balance, your sense of yourself in space, your creativity, your eyes even. I've seen a very big change in the months that you've put toward this. So definitely, that was a very good one. I still would, but poor Wang Chenoi got bumped
Wang
out.
Chenoi taught me what bag work is for. Like,
Yeah.
this is a combination you can do on the bag as a way to waste time.
That
Seeing
wasn't what that
bag
was
is
all
for,
about.
What bag work is for
Yeah.
is really good.
Okay. My last one. I cannot believe we didn't have any overlap. My last one is Arjan Metprik.
Oh, I thought of him too.
Did you?
Wonderful. Say who he is.
He was a Raja Damran champion in the 70s,
Like,
right?
I think 71 or something.
Something. There's a fighter of the year. What's his name?
Tong Chai.
Tong Chai Silla.
Chai.
Silla Chai. I think he's in like the 2000, like around 2000 or
2001.
something. Something like that. I love how Tong Chai fights. He's a very aggressive, very low kick, punch heavy, clinch fighter, but there's a great fight of him versus Nam Sok Noi where he loses the fight. He is outsized by Nam Sok Noi, but you see how a shorter fighter can fight this other great opponent. Yeah, it's just, I love his style, especially for you. It's like punishing leg kicks and the rhythm and the washing machine of weight transfer and fierceness. He's not in Thailand. Do you know where he is?
Tong Chai isn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where is he?
China, I think.
Okay, so we can't film with him. We're up in Karat. Was this for Nam Kaboon's,
No, it's to visit Nam Kabon to interview him.
to interview Nam Kaboon, who has since passed away. And we're like, while we're here, let's try to find a session. And we're like, we don't even know where to go in Karat. Karat was once the heartbeat of Isan fighters, right? And we're like Googling around looking for a gym, and we find the what was it?
Tor Silichai.
Tor Silichai gym, and we walk into this gym and we're like, holy fuck, this is Tong Chai's home gym. And not only is it his home gym, but Arjan Metprik, he's the one who created this entire style.
But like, obviously, like
Yeah, we say
when
that
he started doing it, we were like, that's where that came from.
We say often coaches do not shape fighters directly to be who they are. This is one of those rare things where I felt like I'm watching Tong Chai's fighting. Okay, the camera just jumped off, so I'm not sure where it ended, but it was just saying that those are our 10, and but there's over 100 in the library. We could have easily picked another 10 or another 10.
I did have like 5 alternates that were the way that you're like, I can't believe you didn't choose Wang Chenoi. I'm like, I did, I just didn't.
Yeah, and so as a new patron, you are entering into this like epic, it's just a truly epic archive that in 10 years and 20 years and 50 years, this archive will be the Bible of Muay Thai. Many of these styles are disappearing. The complexity of fight philosophies are being rudimentarily simplified. Even in stadium fighters of today do not have this language, the richness of the language. So you are really sinking into material that you can watch multiple times, draw your own conclusions from. Because just so you know, when Sylvie's doing voiceover, she's just drawing on the things that were of attention to her. But she's not the expert. There's many things to pull from these things that you didn't notice, and that if you watch now, you'd notice something else.
Yeah.
So you become your own kind of researcher in this.
Yeah. There's also very cool moments for me where like someone will teach me something, and all of a sudden I'm like, that's what Berklerk was talking about 2 years ago. Like,
yeah.
It totally is like encyclopedic.
Well, I also want to say that as much as I just said that Sylvie's not the expert in this, there is also this amazing thing that Sylvie, who's like the host of the experience, has trained with 100 great ex-fighters and crews and learned their styles. So she is able to index them.
I'm the librarian.
You're the librarian, but you can index, oh, this knee is like these other 4 knees that were instructed to me, and not like these 3 other knees. And you actually have an encyclopedic knowledge of a technique that is being taught to you. You can fit it into the family of other styles of other people who have taught it. So you have a pretty deep understanding of why it's being taught, which is really, really important. We're trying to avoid the like, this is correct, this is incorrect.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I was just saying today that you're like the most knowledgeable Westerner in Muay Thai technique
Who were you
knowledge.
saying that to?
I wrote it on Instagram. You weren't reading my Instagram today, apparently.
It's just for like talking to people.
No, I don't talk to people very much. But you are the most knowledgeable Westerner in the history of the martial art of Thailand. Like, because of this encyclopedic cross-referenced thing, and then you're also doing it as a fighter. You literally bring techniques into the ring and test them and try to fit them in your own Muay. So this is kind of like, I don't know, you're entering a very, very special group of materials. Anything else to say
And
to our
it's just
patrons?
expanding. It's just getting bigger, which is great.
Yeah.
I wrote this recently.
Oh.
Which is that Kevin and I are actually both wearing Diesel Noise shirts. This is unusual that we're matchy-matchy.
We almost never matchy-match.
But Kevin wears the merch all the time. We have merchandise that all of the earned profit goes towards the crew fund. In the case of like a Diesel Noise shirt, all of it goes to Diesel Noise, Carhot, everything goes to
You buy a
Carhot.
shirt, and within 2 or 3 days, Diesel Noise gets money,
Right.
like all the profit.
This is a way to support some of the crews, and then in like the general merch, like my shorts or something, that goes into the crew fund. The Muay Thai Library and my patron, we give a percentage of my patron to the crew fund.
10%.
That's financially supporting the legends and crews that are in the Muay Thai Library. So this thing is important. What I wrote the other day, and what I think is really cool about this library, is that in doing the long form sessions, and as well as we have multiple sessions with some of the crews, like we have 3, 4 Sagat,
Oh, yeah.
we have like 6 of Karahat, a few of Diesel Noi, 2 of Namsak Noi, this kind of thing, in long form. And what the point is for you to actually see what these men are like and archive the personality of these people, the styles of these people at the same time. People who watch the Muay Thai Library, who are supporting it anyway by being a patron, feel like they know these legends and they feel connected to them and responsible to them in a way that recently a few of my patrons have sent money to help support the crews because they feel connected to them. And it's wonderful to be able to send this money to these crews that's just like, I'm thinking about you, I support you, here you go, which I've sent out today. But the fact that these patrons feel connected to the legends.
That's the point.
Unreal.
That's
I love
really
it.
the.
Like if nothing else came out of this,
That
that's
is
amazing.
the point. Because when we started this, like someone like Diesel Noi, we didn't even honestly know where he was, and I mean, he was just a name.
It's also
He
hard
was
to
a name.
describe Diesel Noi.
But it didn't matter. But we didn't even know. Like, we've taken a name out of history and presented his soul and his Muay and his heart to everybody. And now we've done that with hundreds or 100 crews, and maybe eventually hundreds of crews of Thailand, that people can feel connected across time and across the countries of the world. Like, it's a very, very beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really, I was telling this to Yod Khun Pan actually, because we do also interviews with Yod Khun Pan, Tales of the Elbow Hunter, or
Something like
something
that.
like this. We're interviewing him about his life, and a few people have commented on this, and they've been like, I cannot believe the Elbow Hunter is that sweet of a person. Like, he's so gentle, he's soft-spoken, like, he's very, very delicate almost as a person, and so ruthless when you watch him in the ring. And to me, actually knowing these legends, I'm like, none of this is ever, like, contradictory. Like, that is who they are. Like, the charisma of Samart outside of the ring and his charisma in the ring is one thing. Like, Diesel Noy's little boy giggle and his I'm gonna tear you apart is one thing. Like, they are contrasty. Like, you cannot believe that's one thing, but it's one thing. And when you see interviews with him, when we have him going through the 1, 2, 3 book and he's jumping up to imitate people, like, that's Diesel Noy, and you could never...
As a bit of advice then on how to look at this new to patron, is one of the things Sylvie has talked about is find energies in the library that you connect with, not just techniques. Like, oh, I love that elbow. That's great. Do that. But part of the Muay, the true value of a series of techniques or a style, is actually the energy, the life force of that man. And that's why we do an hour instead of a demo. And it's like, you want to feel the life force of the man, and then let it inhabit you. Impersonate it on the bag. Become Wang Chunoi. Become Sagat. Like, even if you're a caricature of them, that part of the learning of technique in Thailand is you, the persona comes through. Which is another point of the Muay Thai Library, but it's also advice on how to watch these videos. It's like, just don't steal techniques. Like, Sylvie does physical impersonations of Karahat. We say this is like a joke, but it's actually a real thing.
I was sparring with Dee the other day, and Dee was like, to himself, he's like, I'm Karahat, like he was gonna get me as Karahat, and I was like, all right, then I'm Wang Chunoi, and he's like, no. Like, I'm Weerapon, no.
Totally.
It's like characters in a role-playing game or something.
Yeah, but you can harvest this at home. These are things, these points of identification that you make with the men in the videos will improve your Muay Thai and also get you closer to the passion you have for Muay Thai. Like, if you're drawn to the fighting art, there's things in it that speak to you that you're not even fully aware of. And so that's what I suggest too, is to, like, connect with these men, whoever it is that speaks to you, and then impersonate them on the floor.
They're the all-stars.
They're the all-stars.
They're amazing. And it's not only the legends. Like, there are people who we train with who are like a crew stuck in a gym somewhere that you're like, that's incredible. Like, I've learned such incredible
almost
things.
Everyone, because these people have spent their lives doing this thing. And if you spend your life at something, you put your own stamp, your own expression of what it is.
How can you not?
So, for everyone who's gone through this whole video, that's probably not a lot of people.
Welcome to our system.
What do you mean our system?
This is what we do. We're very long-winded.
Oh, that is true. Our method of, and if you're interested in our opinions about Muay Thai, we have the Muay Thai Bones podcast. As a patron, you can get the audio subscription or watch it on YouTube, but we'll put a link to that playlist. So you can not only check out the Muay Thai Library, but you can also check out our kind of like deep thoughts about the nature of the sport and history and sociology and stuff like that. Okay? Thank you very much for supporting us. Right? Yes?
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
No, that's not outro music. That's for both.
Oh, sorry.